Greetings, Culture Warriors. It's Jeff Vieira, author of Culture is Everything, here with you for another dispatch from the front. Another interesting story for you today. This one comes to us from Fortune magazine, story by Bloomberg. Headline, Elon Musk, Tesla will defy law to reopen car plant. It's been covered a lot in the news lately, so you may be familiar with it. This is just one article on it to kind of introduce the subject, and then we'll go deeper into the story to look at what this says about Tesla's company culture. Elon Musk said Tesla is flouting the California county that has blocked its efforts to reopen its only U.S. car plant by restarting production at the facility. Editorial comment here. I don't think, and it's not in quotation marks, I don't think Elon said Tesla is flouting. That seems a little bit like an opinion that was injected here, but I digress. I will be on the line with everyone else, the chief executive officer said in a tweet Monday. If anyone is arrested, I ask that it only be me. Tesla told production workers earlier it was getting back to work at its factory in Fremont, California, after a high-pitched battle with local officials who blocked the plant from reopening last week. Valerie Capers-Workman, Tesla's head of North American Human Resources, said in an email to production workers that their furlough ended Sunday and that managers will contact them within 24 hours with their start date and schedule. The email conflicted with remarks California Governor Gavin Newsom made during his daily press briefing on Monday. He said he expected the company's plant would be able to reopen as early as next week. My understanding is they have had some very constructive conversations, Newsom said, referring to Tesla and Alameda County, where Fremont is located. My belief and hope and expectation is as early as next week they will be able to resume. Tesla sued the county over the weekend after it told the company it didn't meet the criteria to reopen. Newsom, who allowed manufacturing in parts of the state to restart May 8th, said Monday that the county decided to enforce stricter rules around reopening. When asked about Tesla reopening in its Fremont plant regardless of Alameda's order, Newsom said he was unaware. It was my understanding when I walked up to the podium today that wasn't the case, he said. Alameda's public health department declined to comment. Musk, 48, tweeted over the weekend that Alameda's refusal to let Tesla reopen the Fremont factory was the final straw and that he'd immediately move Tesla's headquarters to Nevada or Texas. Newsom said Monday the state has a strong relationship with Tesla, calling it a company that this state has substantively supported for now many, many years. Musk then thanked the governor in a tweet. Wow, a lot to unpack in this particular article, aside from that little editorial note inserted at the front of it. So this is interesting because, of course, Elon Musk is a celebrity CEO. He's got a lot of different interests, including getting to Mars, along with his primary bread and butter, Tesla Motors. Tesla has been the darling, in a lot of ways, of the political class, because Tesla offers high-end electric vehicles. And part of the ideological glue that binds the political class is a belief fundamentally in sustainable energy and the need to move to vehicles which do not consume fossil fuels. Right? So the fact is that you can have vehicles which run on natural gas, for example, which are a lot better for the environment than gasoline-powered vehicles. But that's not on the table. Their real end game, the real desire, is to see electric vehicles predominate. And Tesla is really the spearhead of that effort. So having a person like Elon Musk, very charismatic, terrific spokesman for his brand, out front leading the charge for sustainable energy and doing it in a way that very wealthy people can take pride in the fact that they're driving one of these vehicles. These are luxury vehicles. So this is not your typical smart car. This is not a golf cart that's been tarted up. These are very attractive vehicles. And it's become kind of a status symbol to own a Tesla. So it's interesting then to see Elon Musk at odds with the government in California. You know, very few companies choose to have large-scale production operations in California, not because the population isn't there, not because the consumers aren't there, but because California makes it extraordinarily difficult to own and operate a business, especially one of any scale. So, especially in manufacturing industry, in the manufacturing industry, people are loath to open up a plant in California. They'd rather be just across the border in one of the neighboring states, particularly Nevada is a popular place to put it. Same thing from a distribution perspective. You're a bit limited because the population is so dense in pockets throughout California that it really lowers your transportation costs if you have a distribution center nearby. Also, you don't want to have to be going over the mountains on a regular basis to service your customers. It's just not economical to do so. So distribution, while they would prefer not to have major distribution centers in California, the fact is they often have to. They have no choice in order to keep transportation costs down, and they just put up with the very poor business environment in California in order to continue servicing those customers. So you see a disconnect in this article between the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who seemed to be under the impression that Tesla would simply wait to reopen, Elon Musk, and then Alameda County. As a lifelong Oakland Raiders fan, you can imagine I have an opinion about Alameda County. You may recall that for some years the Oakland Raiders played in a stadium in Alameda County. And in fact, there was kind of a long history there. Of course, the Raiders started out there when the team was founded, and Al Davis, for many years, the owner of the Oakland Raiders, legendary, actually took them out of Oakland down to L.A. when repeated promises to build them a stadium didn't manifest. Moreover, they play until this coming year when the Raiders have moved to Vegas. They play in the worst stadium in the country. It's a shared stadium with the baseball team, the Oakland A's. And that Alameda County Stadium is an absolute disaster. Now, the Alameda County folks have promised, the city has promised multiple times to do a stadium to separate the teams, to allow them to play in something that's been upgraded, but that's never happened. So it does not surprise me to hear that Alameda County has decided to change the rules regarding what it takes to reopen operations within their county. Doesn't surprise me at all. They are known for their very arbitrary rulings. They are known for their hostility to the organizations that bring money and jobs into the county. So not a surprise at all. What's interesting here is that Elon Musk has clearly indicated that he's going to open that plant. They've already communicated to the employees, and he's pushed the nuclear button to move their headquarters out of California. Now, they didn't say they'd move the plant. That's a little bit more difficult because you can imagine shifting production. You have to build a large state-of-the-art facility in order to do that. But, you know, moving headquarters out is still a big deal. Moving it to Texas or Nevada which has both states of which have benefited disproportionately from business fleeing California, is another kind of stick in the eye. And what's interesting here, you see the reference where uh, Musk indicated that he'd be out on the floor. This is very much part of his persona. He is well known for when the company is having production problems, he sleeps at the plant. He's out on the floor constantly, helping to make vehicles. So this is a very hands-on leader. It's interesting because when you look up Tesla's values, I did my typical, let me search through their website, see if I can find anything out about their culture, etc. There's actually nothing there. The website is a sales front end. So they make it very easy for you to order a Tesla, but very difficult to find out about the company. I finally had to do a search specifically on the values, and I found a page buried. I don't even think there's a link to it on the main page, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. But interestingly, this is a company that operates a little bit differently than the norm, as you'll see. So let me read the letter that was referred to that Tesla sent to its workers about getting back to work. This was on May 9th. Tesla is the last major car maker remaining in California and the largest manufacturing employer in the state, with more than 10,000 employees at our Fremont factory and 20,000 statewide. Did you know that? That was interesting to me, the fact that every car maker has basically fled California from a production standpoint. And also that they're the biggest manufacturer. We understand the impacts COVID-19 has caused and have a responsibility to look out for the livelihoods and safety of our personnel, many of whom rely on us and have been out of work for weeks due to the impacts of shelter-in-place orders. That adds a little bit of color the article didn't add. Given the governor's recent guidance, which is supported by science and credible health data, the state and federal government's classification of vehicle manufacturing as national critical infrastructure, and our robust safety plan, Tesla has started the process of resuming operations. Our employees are excited to get back to work, and we're doing so with their health and safety in mind. Our restart plan is the result of months of careful planning and preparation. It was modeled after the comprehensive return-to-work plan we established at our Shanghai Gigafactory, which has seen smooth and healthy operations in the last 3 months. Wow, that would have been nice to mention. Shanghai, of course, is in China. Very large city in China. Big manufacturing center. And it's, as you might expect, they would obviously have an outsized concern with regard to safe operations in Shanghai, given how close the epicenter of the outbreak was to it. No mention of that in the article. We are taking the time we need to get our personnel properly trained before they begin work, and all employees must complete an online video training before returning to work at any Tesla facility. We have a thorough return-to-work plan for all locations, a cross-functional response team, including an in-house physician, has been working daily to establish health and safety guidelines based on location and job-specific risk assessments, and we are continuously reviewing our processes to ensure they work for our employees in the new environment. Back in March, we conducted risk assessments at each site, looking at how and where people work, how they interact, and what measures are needed to meet safety standards. In some cases, we have added partitions or barriers to separate work areas and minimized employee interaction by positioning parts closer to where that task is completed on the line. We are also requiring additional personal protective equipment along with rigorous cleaning and disinfecting protocols. Our return-to-work playbook details the comprehensive safety measures we have introduced to ensure employee safety. Tesla is not an outlier, nor are we going against the grain. From the state's very first shelter-in-place order, national critical infrastructure, including vehicle manufacturing like Tesla's Fremont factory, was considered vital and given permission to continue operating. The governor repeated this direction this week when he made clear manufacturing should resume. In addition, at least 3 neighboring counties in the same situation have already restarted their economies, including manufacturing, including Solano, Napa, and San Joaquin counties. Meanwhile, Alameda County, where our factory resides, and Santa Clara County, next door, have stated in their return to work order, frequently asked questions, that the manufacturing of distributed energy resources, which is defined in state law to include electric vehicles, solar, and battery storage, is permitted to resume. Contrary to the governor's recent guidance and support from the city of Fremont, Alameda County is insisting we should not resume operations. This is not for lack of trying or transparency, since we have met with and collaborated on our restart plans with the Alameda County Healthcare Services Agency. You might note that the governor seemed to be aware of that in his statement. Unfortunately, the county public health officer who is making these decisions has not returned our calls or emails. They are the #1 manufacturer in the state. That means they're the #1 manufacturer in the county. There are 10,000 jobs there. That is a major employer, no matter how you slice it, and yet they will not return their calls. The list below is just some of the information we've shared with the city and county officials. Detailed health and safety restart plan with checklist and photos, employee health and safety guidelines, risk assessment process, including what we've done throughout the factory, risk assessment improvements. The list is 8 items long, okay, and it's pretty detailed. We will continue to put people back to work in a safe and responsible manner. However, the county's position left us no choice but to take legal actions to ensure that Tesla and its employees can get back to work. We filed a lawsuit on May 9th asking the court to invalidate the county orders to the extent the county claims they prevent Tesla from resuming operations. Okay, there's a lot there that changes the color of this story quite a bit. Given what you heard about the steps that Tesla has taken, it doesn't seem like they've taken things lightly. And yet the county claims, there was no specifics offered in the article, that Tesla has not done what is necessary to reopen, casting shade on the seriousness with which Tesla is approaching the safety of their workers. But you hear something else as well. Tesla is worried about the fact that these workers have been without their paychecks for weeks. They want them to get back to work so they can feed their families. So on the About page that I finally dug out through the search engine, we see this article. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Tesla was founded in 2003 by a group of engineers who want to prove that people didn't need to compromise to drive electric, that electric vehicles can be better, quicker, and more fun to drive than gasoline cars. Today, Tesla builds not only all-electric vehicles, but also infinitely scalable clean energy generation and storage products. Tesla believes the faster the world stops relying on fossil fuels and moves towards a zero-emission future, the better. And then they go on to tell a little bit of the history of the different vehicles. Hand down a little bit here. All Tesla vehicles are produced at its factory in Fremont, California, where the vast majority of the vehicle's components are also made. I believe that's changed. They have that Shanghai plant. I'm not sure if they have any other locations. But at the time this was published, that was true. To achieve our goal of having the safest factories in the world, Tesla is taking a proactive approach to safety, requiring production employees to participate in a multi-day training program before ever setting foot on the factory floor. Multi-day training program, that is unusual. Generally speaking, it's common to have some sort of training before you let people get out there and start doing their thing, but it's usually, a couple hours to a half a day. From there, Tesla continues to provide on-the-job training and track performance daily so that improvements can be made quickly. The result is that Tesla's safety rate continues to improve while Model 3 production ramps. So, Tesla, a couple of key points here. Tesla was founded by engineers. Elon Musk is an engineer of some skill. It's important to note that engineers exist to solve problems. The whole mindset of the engineer is to identify problems and solve them. I'm an engineer myself. That is simply the way we are wired. Okay? The most frustrating thing for an engineer is what we call the highly constrained problem. What that means is that due to a variety of factors, some hard and physical, some softer, perhaps even political, there may only be a small set of possible solutions to a problem. And in order to solve that problem, you've got to discover what those are. And so the more complicated the problem, the more common the symptom, the more work you have to do to sift through it all to find out what the real cause is and to identify that very narrow solution set. I had one engineering problem in my career, which was exceptionally difficult in this regard. And we had to come up with an answer which involved a lot of statistical wizardry. It took weeks for me to sort through the math and to kind of figure out an approach to this. And it was extremely stressful because you begin to believe that there is no solution for the problem. Business desperately needs a solve. None is going to exist. That is what failure looks like for an engineer. Abject failure. The only thing that makes it worse is when somebody else solves it. At the end of the day, we found a solution for it. It was so technical that my new boss couldn't understand it. And so he brought in a colleague he knew from another business unit with some technical competence to evaluate the solution I'd come up with. So I shared everything I had with him, explained, in answer to his questions, why we did what we did. And what he came back and told my boss is that not only was this a solution to the problem, but as far as he could tell, this was the only possible solution to the problem. So for engineers, you take some satisfaction in ultimately finding and solving that. But boy, you do not relish getting back into those trenches again with another problem of that sort. It is extremely painful. And so I think it says something that Elon Musk, as an engineer, is viewing this reopening, keeping Tesla afloat, continuing to perform their mission problem in California as insoluble. I think that's what's behind the threat to move the headquarters. Is that, look, they're doing very difficult things. This is a guy whose hobby is trying to figure out how to get to Mars. That's his hobby. He does not shy away from difficult challenges. And yet, he's come to the conclusion that getting out of California may be his only option. That's how bad things have gotten on the political front there. Okay. So when we talk about the culture, you can tease some things out of the article and out of what I just read you regarding the letter that they sent to their employees to restart, and about the how they kind of view the company. And I think what you can see on that is this is very much, as you would expect, a company which is cut from the same cloth as its founder. When you have these dynamic, visionary founders, the company tends to take on their personality, for good and ill. And so Elon Musk is known as a disruptive innovator, is known as a very forceful and persuasive, charismatic personality, is known for taking on very difficult problems and finding ways to solve them. And that takes quite a bit of stubbornness. When he first started doing what he was doing, they didn't think it could be done. So it was a little bit crazy, but he stuck to his guns, and Tesla's producing. When they had their first models out, everyone said, wow, this won't work. You can't scale it. Well, he scaled it. Everyone's still saying a private bid to get to Mars, to actually place boots on the planet, is impossible. But he keeps working on it. So this is a person who does not give up easily. He also leads from the front, sleeps in a cot in the plant during times of crisis, out on the floor working with the team directly to solve problems and keep things flowing. Not afraid to turn a wrench, Elon Musk. And so this company, when confronted with what looks like arbitrary rules from people who don't know what they're talking about, I can assure you that the Alameda County, fill in your title here, is not much of an expert on economics, the effectiveness of, disinfectant operations within a plant. And they probably, frankly, don't know a darn thing about epidemiology either, even if there was a lot of knowledge at this point about how this virus works. And so for Elon Musk to hear, we're going to keep people unemployed because Alameda County is uncomfortable or doesn't like Tesla, whatever reason, that just doesn't sit well. And so his inclination is to fight back economically by moving things, pulling out, legally in the courts, and is willing, in fact begs, that if they're going to enforce that rule, that he be the only one arrested. So it's a very personal style of leadership. I'm sure that that's the root of the loyalty that you see online from Tesla employees towards their leadership, the pride that they take in working for that company. I'm sure that's at the root of it. But it tells you a little something about the values involved here. And you see the conflicting values on the part of Alameda County, on the part of Gavin Newsom. These values are in tension, they're in conflict. Now, does anyone need to buy a new Tesla during a pandemic? Probably not. Probably not. I would question whether that was, in a true pandemic situation, is that really considered essential? When we had World War II and we viewed the factories as essential, especially the automotive factories, it was not to produce cars. There was, auto production was very heavily curtailed. It was because that those factories' capabilities could be used to produce airplanes and tanks and jeeps, things that were of use to the military and the war effort. But buying a Tesla, which at this point tends to be a toy for the rich, probably not an essential activity. Politically attractive for folks of an environmental bent. But how can you say, yeah, it's vitally important that we produce cars during this time? Probably not. But does Tesla have a legitimate concern to keep the company going so that it can one day resume selling electric cars and pushing forward the move to sustainable energy sources? Do they have an interest in the welfare of their employees? Well, obviously so. Obviously so. And I think that despite all the noise that you see in the coverage of Musk, it bears reflection that Tesla is not the villain here, even though they're being cast as such in the media. They are opposing the order to remain closed on a number of grounds, and those grounds appear to be inconsistent with the values of the company. So I find it difficult to fault Musk, to fault the company for desiring to get back to work. How do you fault people for that? And this whole Mother May I dance that Alameda County and God knows how many other uh, localities across the nation are engaging in seems to me to be one hell of a lot less virtuous than what you're seeing from Musk and Tesla. And I say that as someone who will never buy a Tesla, is not particularly enamored of the company per se, nor of Mr. Musk. But when you dig deeper into the story and you look at the underlying values, I think it's clear that there's a set of values that are noble and very welcome in the American society that Musk is presenting here. And that in the end, I think Gavin Newsom and Alameda County are going to have some explaining to do. Have a great day.